happened before. Yeah, right. And, so that happens from time to time. I just hope it was good.
It was funny.
Well, there you go. Okay, and you had a good time.
I think it was even funnier when we were watching it with the subtitles, like the direct subtitles, because it's just like, okay, so that's what they meant to say, and that's what they did.
Well, ultimately, this is the entertainment business. And if you are entertained, I guess they did their job. Might have ticked you off a little bit, but not any more than the news, right? Yeah.
Well, what you were just saying just now, I started thinking specifically about Shin-chan. And you worked on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And wasn't most of the humor in that so, I guess, essentially Japanese?
Horribly Japanese. That show didn't translate almost at all. So with that show, we were given license to completely westernize it.
Zoom in button right here.
Yeah, I think it was hilarious. Now there were certain things about it that we didn't want to, because it is definitely Japanese. It is set in Japan, and there are aspects of it that they didn't want to. But like there's kind of two ways to look at that show. There's sort of the overall theme of the show is still very Japanese, and they keep Japanese culture in there, and they still talk about Japanese things in an English way. But individual jokes throughout the show have been westernized. You know what I mean?
The humor basically, like Shin-chan would say good morning when it was in the afternoon or something, and
yeah, but that wouldn't make any sense to anybody, because it's light on screen. How would we know? That doesn't make sense to us. So anyway, but yeah, that happens from time to time. Yes.
What is your favorite project?
Desert Punk is my favorite project that I've voice acted on. Directing?
Yeah, what's your favorite project?
We definitely have to watch it.
I know.
In anime?
Yeah.
It's silly, but I really enjoyed directing Case Closed.
That was a good series, though.
Thanks.
That was good.
And I enjoyed directing it because
No.
I'm kind of a sucker for little episodic mysteries. And it was fun to every episode or every movie to direct my actor friends that I know into very character-y kind of one-off, bad guy or good guy or ingenue type characters. That was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing that. So that was I had a really good time doing that show. Yes.
I don't like for the English sometimes you get to actually have voice actors act out something before doing the animation and stuff, and the Japanese usually do the voice acting one of the last things.
Do we have the camera charger in the bag here?
Will you prefer having the actors have one?
It's only got 75
I would prefer that everyone has the most freedom that they can. That being said, there is something very freeing about parameters. In the booth as a voice actor in anime, you do have very specific parameters. You have a script you're supposed to follow and animation you're supposed to fit to. But at the same time, that kind of opens up a world of other possibilities that you would never think about, And so directing into that can be freeing in a certain way. The other version of what you're talking about is called prelay, where you have all of the actors in one room and they all sit down and they all, you got 12 people in a room with microphones, and they all get to act and play off of one another, and it's like a script reading, and then everybody's directed like that, and then the animation goes after them. It'd be fun to direct that too. That's directing more like a real directing. That's what it's like directing a group of actors. That's of course more challenging because you're at that point directing something you can't see. You're directing voices in a room, and that's hard. High five. Okay. Thanks, Mark, too. She hates that. She just hates me. She's hated me since yesterday. I'm kidding. Okay, I know you've got your head between your knees, but you had your hand up a second ago. I'm just kidding.
I know a little bit more about everything a director does.
About what?
It's like everything that a director really does.
I've got everything a director does?
Like a little bit about all the different aspects. Just everything it entails.
Everything it entails. Oh, wow.
Lots of Tylenol.
Okay, first off, you're broke. Okay. B, no one likes you because you have to make the hard decisions. No, I'm kidding. Not about the first one. You are broke, but it's difficult because you do have to make the hard decisions. You have to be diplomatic about everything. You have to, first off, there's casting. You have to be a constant multitasker. You're not just thinking about casting the show today. You're thinking about what that's going to look like as an end product. And that's difficult. Thinking about it from here to here, that's very, very, very hard. So the whole process it's an all-consuming thing. So you can't just go, like casting, recording, and then there's like watching everything back. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's recasting like I was talking about before and saying, oh, that didn't work, we're gonna have to get somebody else in there. But that's it. I mean, sitting down, the biggest aspect of directing is communication. There is a severe lack of communication from a lot of directors. I'm not just talking about the world of animation. I'm talking about the world of directors. I've worked with directors in film, commercials, and anime who their version of directing is let's go. It's like no, that's not directing. I was on a film shoot where the director came in and he was like, okay, so all the actors go to your spots and read your lines. How would the actors know where their spots are? Okay, first off, it's not their spots, it's their blocking. If you're a director, you need to know the words to use. Okay, block the scene as a director. You have to tell them where their blocking is. You have to tell them where to go. You have to say, you move from here to here on this line. And the reason you move from here to here on this line is this. This is your motivation. These actors are going to want to know these things. My wife and I, actually my wife is still at home doing this right now while I'm here, but my wife and I have been doing Rocky Horror, right, over Halloween, yay. She plays Columbia. Who knows the Rocky Horror Show? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, here's a good example of bad direction. Do not put this part up on YouTube, please. Because the director is a very good friend of mine, and I love him dearly. But this is an example of bad direction. The point in Rocky Horror where Columbia blows up at Frankenfurter and freaks out and smacks him around and knocks him to the ground right before Riff Raff sprays her with the juice that makes her go, woo, you know what I'm talking about, right? Frankenfurter was not playing that moment beforehand. He said, Columbia, do this, and blah, 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 get everyone prepared for the floor show. And he would walk off. And then she explodes, and my wife is not an actress. She's just doing this because she can tap dance. That's it. So she comes home from me and she goes, the director keeps telling me I don't get mad enough. And I'm like, yeah, of course you don't get mad enough. The actor's not giving you anything to play off of. He's just saying his line and walking away. That's a directorial issue. The director is not saying enough to Frankenfurter. It's not that he's directing the wrong person. He's saying, Columbia, you're not getting mad enough. What he needs to say is, Frankenfurter, you're not giving Columbia enough reason to get mad enough. So my wife and I played the scene at home, and I played Frankenfurter as the pompous jerk that he's supposed to be in that moment, and then my wife beat the crap out of me. And it worked. And she was like, oh, I get it now. Now it makes sense. And so that aspect is the biggest part of directing. You can't just direct the actor in the moment. You have to see the before and the after of the moment. It's a whole thing, And there's a great book. It's called Directing Actors. I forget the author, but you can find it almost in any bookstore. That sucker will tell you everything you need to know. It's really good. And if you know who, if you want like an opposite view of directing, do you know who David Mamet is? Yeah, right? David Mamet is like one of the most outspoken playwrights of our day. He's written some of the best plays in the world, and he's directed some of my favorite films. He's written some books about, he's written a book called On Directing. He wrote a book recently called Theater. You get both of those books, put them together and read them. Take them with a grain of salt, because he's so opinionated and half of the stuff in there is kind of ridiculous. But he is awesome, and that stuff, just the way he explains things in those books are fantastic. Okay, so other questions? Yes?
How did you get into voice acting, and what did you do when you first started? What was like your first couple?
Trunks was the first role I had. I got into voice acting. I've been acting since I was 12. Acted through high school, and then through college, and then when I was 24, I was still in college, and I went out and I got an agent in Dallas, and started getting some work here and there, doing commercials or whatever. Just whatever would pay, me. And at the same time, I was working at a pizza joint to also help pay things. And one night at about 1 in the morning, this girl who was playing Bulma on Dragon Ball Z walked into the pizza joint and said, here's a phone number, call this guy and get an audition on this show, because you would be awesome at it. And she was a girl who I was in college theater with a few years before. And she was just walking by the pizza joint one night and thought, I wonder if Eric still works there. And she was nice enough to come inside and hand me the phone number. So, I called him up. It was Chris Sabat, and he auditioned me, and a few weeks later I got cast as Trunks and started recording, and that was that, and been doing it ever since.
So then would you say majority of voice actors kind of get a lucky break like you did, or is there more of a struggle for most, or?
I say it's half luck and half hard work. So my dad always told me the harder you work, the luckier you get. And, it's kind of true. I was working really, really hard delivering pizzas that night. I didn't know she'd walk in, or stumble in, actually, but, So, I don't know. Everyone has to be a little lucky. There's a lot of luck out there, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity if I hadn't been. That's the thing. There's no such thing as an overnight success. I was acting all through high school, all through college. I'd been acting professionally for. When I say professionally, I don't mean like I'm making tons of money, but acting with an agent for a few years. and then I got one break. It happens, you know. So I don't think that happens with everybody. I think that's kind of a unique experience. Most people hear of an audition and go in and audition and audition and audition and audition and then get a role and then come back and get a bigger role. That's usually the way that it works.
Do you ever have like I don't want to say like a bond with fellow cast members? Like if you do a show, like for example, Dragon Ball Z, that spanned out forever. Did you ever get in like close bonds with your coworkers?
Yeah, some of them. You know, like Chris Sabat, he's one of my best friends. He lives right down the street from me. And we spend holidays together and stuff, you know. And, you know, he's great, you know. And there are other people that you know, there's certain people that I work with that I'm very close with. Chris Kaysen, does anybody know Chris Kaysen? Chris Kaysen and I met doing a play in Dallas in 1994. And when I showed up at the studio one day and there he is, I'm like, oh, Chris, what are you doing here? So yeah, you make friends with people. It's pretty cool. Yeah?
I've got an odd question. If someone has a really distinct voice for a character that becomes iconic, do they get touchy if he does it elsewhere? Like if someone has a very distinct voice for a character like Vegeta, and then he does his Vegeta voice somewhere else, maybe on his back?
Yeah, because it's licensed. So it's like I can do my Trunks voice here, I can, like in this room, but if my Trunks voice is recorded, like if I go to New York and I record my Trunks voice and I say, you know, hey, this is Trunks for Gatorade, I will get sued. Because it's licensed. You know, that voice is actually owned by another company, not by me.
But the name's on the voices, and I mean, you can't help the way your voice sounds.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Trunks, but you can use that voice and say, oh, I'm Lenny and of Mice and Men, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I can, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to. At the same time, I want to be a better actor than that. I want to say, you know what, to hell with that voice. I can come up with a better damn voice. I can do better than that. Come on. You know, so that's why I try all the time to come up with new voices. That's why when I'm reading books to my daughter, I do every voice in that book that I can. You know, every single one of them. Okay. Yep. Oh wait, this is the last question, right? Okay, last question.
Still want
You still want a picture with you?
with me? I'm not worthy. My son is worthy. I am not.
Your son is so never shot.
I know. But that's so worthy.
You want a picture with him?
I can't. I don't deserve it. Oh, imagine if it was Vegeta, I would just be on the ground. I couldn't slam my chair in front of me.
Well, if it's the same actor. If it's the same actor and it's licensed, that's the thing. If it's licensed, that may not be a licensed voice. I don't know. If it's not the same actor, it doesn't matter. You know, if Bill does a voice on Dragon Ball Z and Jamie does a voice on One Piece, and those voices sound exactly the same, it's a non-issue. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for sitting in and listening to me gab for a little while. Appreciate it. Sorry, I gotta go.
I'm sorry my son was so naughty.
I didn't even notice.
He was screaming. He's just really tired.
I have no clue. I deal with them all the time.
I'm so sorry.
Even though you're done, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you do all the voices for Trunks? Future, kid, teen?
Not kid, no.
No?
No, that's Laura Bailey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably could have looked that up, but...
You know, actually, Desert Punk is the next series that we just started watching. I picked it because of the cover. Actually, the chick that's sitting there, I'm like, oh, she has big boobs. I'm like, we're watching that one.
It is my favorite.
So that's
We
actually
just finished, we got one episode left on Claymore, then we're moving on to that one.
yeah, so that's actually the next